Hi everyone, here's the Bookchemist once again, and this is a spoiler-free review of S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. I'm still not sure where one ends, the other begins. And when I say it's spoiler-free, I'm not saying I'm not going to tell you details about the plot of the book. Of course I'm not, who you think I am. I'm saying I'm not going to tell you anything about all the juicy bits and the awesome surprises you'll find in this thing. And if you want to keep this really spoiler-free and you trust my opinion, just stop the video here, go on Amazon, go wherever you want and buy S. At first I too thought it was going to be just a gimmicky way of stealing my money. It's not. It's awesome, it's an impossibly great experience, a wonderful narrative experience, an awesome literary game, and it's mind-blowingly well written. Do read it, you won't regret it. Just know that this is the fastest I fell in love with a book since Against the Day by Thomas Pynchon, and then too I had to read at least a few pages and get to the part with the talking dog before I was hooked. Here I fell in love for the first time in my reading history. I fell in love with the book before I even got to the fucking frontispiece. The only exception being, I think, a heartbreaking work of staggering genius. So for those of you who need a little more information, what the fuck is S? S is a very weird, very imaginative project. It is theoretically the book you'll find in your, in your package is Ship of Theseus, this novel by a fictional 20th century writer, very famous 20th century writer, who was kind of a cryptic figure. No one knows who he or she was. Think about Thomas Pynchon actually, also because this writer called Straka was heavily politicized too and fought a lot and talked a lot about the needs of the lower classes and how the upper classes and governments and corporations oppress the poor people of the world. Ship of Theseus is an English book, but it is a translation, and in the book you also find an introduction and footnotes by the author's translator, who supposedly kinda knew him or her, or at least had a correspondence with them. But the point, the crucial weirdness of the book is that this is a book that two people passed between each other for several months, in the course of several months. This is supposedly, as I said, a library book, and one would read it and pass to the other and pass it back, and each time the book was passed, one of these two persons, a boy, a guy and a girl, would add some notes in the margins of the book. The girl is a senior student at an American university, the guy is a bit older, he's a grad student, a serious, no fun grad student, and the first notes in the margins are just stuff like the girl writing, "Oh, this book was so lovely, I really needed the escape," and the guy, being a fucking scholar, going, "If you thought this book was fun, you didn't read it well enough." And they start exchanging like comments like these, teasing each other, and very soon they also start sharing their opinions about the book and their opinions about the mystery of the book. Who is this writer? What is this book about? Are there hints in the book about the real identity of the writer? Because, well, let's just say that very soon the events in the book, in the narrative, start sliding toward the world of the margin, and the lives of these two characters are changed in a very concrete way by this experience they are sharing. And I'm not showing you the book because I don't want to spoil you the experience of seeing the book, touching it, feeling it, and seeing all this mess, but I have to tell you, it is a motherfucking mess, because you get the book, you get the actual Ship of Theseus, but you get all these notes scribbled in the margins, and in the book you also get lots of other amazing stuff. Like really amazing, which are basically letters or more that these characters exchange, these two people, the undergrad student and the grad student, exchange throughout the reading experience. And you have to mediate between all these different diegetic level, all these different things going on at the same time. You have the fucking book to read, but you have the notes in the margins, which also come from different moments in the relationship. Some of the notes they scribbled very soon, when they just knew each other. Some of them they wrote a bit later. Some again wrote several months later, when things had by then gone south. And I'm not adding anything else. And you get the occasional postcard, you get the occasional picture or photograph, and even more. And how the fuck are you supposed to go about all that? Trust me, it is a fucking mess, but the point is that you choose how to do that. The book is your personal experience, personal reading experience. Some readers might browse the book at first and like take a look at all these juicy things and surprises you get. Some other might proceed page by page. Some might prefer to read Ship of Theseus, the actual narrative first, and then go about the notes in the margins. All of these are like good ways of doing that. I went about the book by reading it page by page. I read each page and I read the margins and I moved to the next page and read it this way. I would suggest you do the same. It's probably the most complicated way of going about it, because you have to keep in mind the different stories, the actual plot of the book, the story in the margins. It's a mess. But the great thing about the book, the fact that it's really mind-blowing and it makes me wonder how the fuck did these people write it, is that as much as it is complicated, it is never too complicated and never gets out of hand. What I mean is, sure, you have to mediate between different stories and it's gonna be a mess, and sometimes you get references to characters you still don't know and you only know several pages later, but even when that happens, that only stirs your interest and makes you more excited about the book. It never feels like a burden, it never makes you confused. It's always somehow exciting without getting confusing. The other reason why I wouldn't suggest you read Ship of Theseus, the novel, first, and then you go back and read all of the margins, is because Ship of Theseus is interesting and exciting and thrilling. It has a few twists. It has an awesome last chapter. At the same time, it is not nearly as amazing as the story in the margins. The margins are king in S. They are the juicy part of the experience. I did find myself sometimes reading a book like going, yeah, interesting, come on, and like waiting for pages where there were lots of notes in the margins and going, yay, lots of margins. That's okay in my opinion, also because I've been calling this thing a book all this time, because I wouldn't say this is a novel at all. S as a whole is a novel at all. In fact, if you ask me, the one thing I have to say about the book is that to me this feels very much like a game, like some kind of board game, narrative board game of sorts, in particular a legacy game. Legacy games are a relatively new concept. Last year they were all the rage in the world of board games. I think they still are. Basically they are games that evolve according to your playing experience. Like, we have all played Risk, the game with, you know, the world, the planisphere, and all the little tanks, and you had to kill all your friends. By the way, if we ever play this game, I'm going to destroy you. I'm amazing at Risk. Risk Legacy, the legacy version of this game, is a version of Risk in which the first time you play, you and your friends sign the board, and at the end of each game, the game evolves according to the outcomes of the game. In your second game, you might add new rules according to, like, for instance, at one moment a certain nation or a certain territory might get completely destroyed and be impossible to be crossed by tanks ever again. The game evolves in that way, and so no two boards of the game are ever the same. According to whom you ask, novels work exactly the same way, and no two reading experiences are the same ever. I agree with that view, but S takes this to the next level, because the very book comes in this package, which is, it's actually sealed, and when you open it you have to break this seal, and there's a sticker in here. I put mine on my laptop, and you can do what you want with yours, and by breaking this seal you make the experience yours already, because no one else will be able to break your own seal. And by the book, by offering you so many ways of going at it, makes it hugely customizable. The whole experience becomes inevitably yours. I could go on rambling about S. I think I should stop. I already spoiled you enough of the book, but really there's so much more to find out once you break open the cover of this thing. I would suggest it to anyone who's in love with narratives, anyone who looks for something different, anyone who's addicted to narratives and to plots. There are some awesome reflections. I haven't talked about all the awesome reflections on the value of escapism, on the value of reading for pleasure against reading for insight. So many interesting reflections in the margins. It's an amazing experience. I would suggest it to anyone who is even remotely interested in it and thinks it's fascinating. Let me know what you think about S. Let me know what your experience with the book was. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye, guys.